Guys, once again I come up with one more topic of Unit 4 of HRM, that is the Wage and Salary Administration. In this particular topic, we are going to study about the importance of wage and salary. Basically, this is a systematic approach to provide monetary values to employees because it is a process to administer the employees, to administer its compensation, and it aims to establish and maintain an equitable wage and salary structure. There are some standard definitions, just like according to D.S. Beach, he used to define it as it refers to the establishment and implementation of sound policies and practices of employee compensation. Sound policies we used to mean here that any of the employee should not feel that I am not going to pay by the management equitable to my peer colleague. That's why policies, especially remuneration or wage policies, should not favor any employee on the basis of caste, creed, or any other thing. So, according to Bewath and Rains, it is essentially the application of a systematic approach to the problem of ensuring that employees are paid in a logical, equitable, and fair manner. Once again, he is telling you the same thing, that the wages should be paid to each and every employee without displaying the favoritism. It should be logical, equitable, and in fair manner. Now, wages and salaries consist of three parts, that is the wages generally paid to blue collar employees, salaries paid to white collar employees, and the compensation that is apart from salary. So we can define as wages, this is generally the amount which we use to pay to the blue collar employees. By blue collar employees, we used to mean the employees who are functioning at the lower level, who are engaged in different kind of production units, who are the supervisors, who are just following the directions. These are blue collared employees. And we used to pay wages on daily, weekly, or monthly for the jobs which can be measured to some extent in terms of money's worth. So this is all about the wages. If I talk about the salary, we used to pay the salary to the white collared employees. White collared employees, we used to call it the managers, the executives, the decision makers, white collared employees. And we used to pay the salary on monthly or bi-monthly basis. Just like in foreign countries, employees, especially white collared employees, used to get the salaries after every 15 days. Because it is a contribution of work which cannot be easily measured. Because these are the thinkers. We cannot measure their work in terms of money. That's why we used to call it salary. Now the third part of this particular process, that is the compensation. Compensation, it includes the wages and all other allowances and benefits like house rent allowance, just like education allowance, just like insurance allowance, different type of housing, travel, or just like recognition, privilege, or we can say status quo. So these are the things we used to pay to the employees apart from salary. That's why we used to call it compensation. So in wages and salary consists of three parts: wages paid to blue collared employees, salaries paid to white collared employees, and the compensation, a benefit we use to provide to our employees apart from their salary. This is all called the compensation. Now, concept of wages. Wages, there are several restrictions, several laws which we used to follow, just like Minimum Wages Act, fair wages. Fair wages we used to call it, that should be equitable and that should be equivalent to their work. There should be Minimum Wages Act are there in the labor laws. Living wage, basic minimum, need based, statutory minimum, and of course there is not any maximum level. But according to the firm's status, firm's financial conditions, we used to put certain kind of restrictions that the wages or the salary should be minimum to this point and maximum to that point. We used to just put different kind of slabs. Now, what are the objectives of wages and salaries? It should be fair and equitable compensation. In order to retain the employees, qualified personnel, in order to attract the qualified personnel in different companies, we used to put some certain slabs so that good and professionals, qualified professionals, can attract towards our company. In order to retain present employees means if there are very good employees working in your organization and you want to retain them, then their wage and salary structure should be up to that level. To keep labor cost aligned with the organizational ability to pay, and of course motivation and morale of employees, if there is a certain equitable wages, your employee should be morally high. You can motivate them, you can put them in a very better condition so that they can retain their jobs. To project good image of the company for outside world, and to minimize change of favoritism, which I told you earlier also. Now, what are the principles? There are certain principles, there are certain laws, there are certain directions. Whenever you are just calculating your fair wages structure, wages and salary structure, you have to just follow those principles. These principles are interest of all the parties should be considered. Just like whether you are going to wages, whether you are going to pay the salaries, there should be some things which you have to consider. That is, the interest of all the parties should be considered. Then wage plans should be flexible and responsive to changes. If you think that the wages and the salaries are obsolete, not according to the time, not according to the cost of living, not according to the expenses which are essential these days, then you should have that kind of provision that you can revise your wage and salary structure. Then differences in wages should be based on logical facts, consistently aligned with organizational plan, expedite and simplify administrative process in line with prevailing market rates. Market rates we use to cost of living. If the cost of living is high, then you have to just revise your salary structure, wage and salary structure, so that your employees could meet the fair wages, able to just expense according to the cost of living. Now, what are the factors which affect wage and salary structure? There are certain external and certain internal factors which affect the wage and salary process. What are those external and internal factors? External factors are demand and supply of the produce, cost of living, trade unions bargaining power. There are certain instances where trade unions used to pressurize the management to increase the salaries. There are certain government legislations also, just like I told you earlier, minimum wages act is there. Now, psychological and social factors, so that you can motivate your employees, you can make them work hardly, and you can just satisfy their emotions. There are psychological factors and social factors as well. Economic conditions of the company, of the state, technological development, and prevailing market rates. Technological developments, we can say that earlier expenses of the mobile is not considered in wage and salary structures. But these days, as the mobile expenses are very much essential, so this is also one point according to the technological development which we have to consider whenever we are just drafting our wage and salary structure. Now, what are internal factors? There are some internal factors also, just like company's ability to pay to its employees, job requirements, just like there are certain jobs where chauffeur driven car is essential. There are certain jobs where employee or executive has to travel through aeroplane. So company has to bear the airfare wages. Management strategy to motivate or just to transfer any employee to some remote area, then his DA or HRA has to be revised. An employee, in order to retain your existing employee, if he or she is getting very good offer from some different company. So maybe you have to revise his salary in order to retain, because you think that particular employee is very much important for our organization. Now, what is the process? Whenever we have to just finalize our wage and salary structure, we have to do the job analysis. We have to do different kind of wage surveys to different parallel companies. We have to group similar jobs to pay grades. We have to make some slabs. We have to price each pay grade. We have to fine tune pay rates, and we have to wage administration rules. There are certain rules and policies in the company which we have to follow, which we are bound to follow. Types of wages, these are time wage according to the time, especially in blue collared employees. That particular time, if that particular objective, that particular target has been completed within that stipulated time, that particular wage would be given. That is the time wage. Piece wage, that particular portion of the project has been completed, then the group of employees or the employees would be given to that particular wage. Piece wage, that particular portion of the project. Then wage incentive plan, just like the bonuses. If you'll be able to reach the target, you will get the compensation in order to complete the target on time. That is the wage incentive plan. There are certain theories by professionals, certain processes, certain type of structures has been given by some standard professionals, just like Halsey premium scheme, Rowan premium scheme, Taylor's plan, Merrick plan, Kent plan, Emerson plan, profit sharing scheme, Scanlon plan. There are certain plans. You don't have to go into that deep, but you can study of yourself. If you want to study, you can study yourself, one or two incentive plans, so that you can get the idea about these things in deep, right? Thank you.